Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Red Tinted Glasses podcast, live here on Monday night on the YouTube channel. Yes, we're late on Monday, but very fitting given Marko Lazetic left it very late to make it 2 wins from 2 for the Dons in Premiership access. God, Jesus, this is going to go well, isn't it, Phil? But it's good to be once again talking about another victory, hard fought in a place we've really struggled to win recently.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you left your brain in Abu Dhabi, Glenn, by chance, it's still on holiday mode, I think.
Very much.
But yeah, no, like you say, it's nice to be speaking about a win at Paisley, because we've never done that in my time on this podcast. Or this podcast in general, because our last one there was 2018. So
it was.
What a lovely change. Pleased to see that we managed to pick up a win there, and like you say, the late show always adds to the excitement as well.
It does, and as you said, probably did leave a bit of my brain back in Abu Dhabi. Had a 5-hour layover in Heathrow on Saturday, so trying to catch some of the game on a dodgy stream was proving a bit difficult on the old Wi-Fi there, but managed to capture the goal, thankfully, and that really lifted the spirits for the remaining couple of hours I had before boarding the flight. And, when we previewed the game with Ross, the St Mirren fan, he said the story of their season so far had been draws. And I guess the longer the game went on, despite them being down to 10 men, it maybe had that feeling that we were going to be ending up settling for a draw. Yes, we were pushing forward, but I guess before the game, I don't know about you, but I said it on the podcast, I would have accepted a draw. But again, discussing it when I was on holiday, it kind of feels one of those games that if the opportunity is there to win it, you'd have felt disappointed if we hadn't taken all 3 points. And I suppose, on reflection, with St Mirren playing with 10 men, us creating a good couple of chances, that Stuart Armstrong one, Alexander Jensen missing the follow-up as well, it almost would have felt like an opportunity missed, do you think?
Yeah, in a way, like you say, I think before the game, just the record that we have against St Mirren and Paisley isn't the greatest. You probably would have taken a draw, but I think coming off the Dundee game and the Shakhtar game, it really has been about building upon the poor start to the season and taking our season in a more positive direction. So I think a win kind of was not necessarily essential, but we spoke about it. St Mirren was going to be the test of this shape, was going to be the test of this personnel. So to come out of that with a win, I think the players, Jimmy, the fans, everyone will feel quite vindicated in a way. And again, like I say, it's just bit by bit building upon that foundation that we have. And like you say, I think as the game went on as well, I took a quick scribble down here according to FootMob. It was a 1.83 expected goals for anyone that's into that metric. So we were in the ascendancy for parts. Still a few worries, obviously. I think for me, we seem to struggle a little bit with balls into the box on a couple of occasions. Obviously, St Mirren do like to target that anyway, but we seem to fluster a little bit. And luckily, Gogic's header in the second half getting ruled out for, I think, a foul on the keeper. I couldn't quite tell if he was ruling it for a foul or an offside, really.
The official ruling on that was offside, a subjective offside, because the St Mirren player is in an offside position. But yeah, I can also see where a foul on the goalkeeper takes place, but I think that's a part of the reason why the offside is given, because he affects Mitov's ability to get to the cross. But yeah, both that cross and the one that follows up with Alex Gogic heading what he believed St Mirren into the lead, I don't think we covered ourselves in glory. I would agree, but I think it's interesting because as much as you say we maybe struggled with those balls into the box, Colin Gale, good to have you along, Colin, on the show tonight, saying about the defence being excellent. Obviously, we saw Gyamfi missing out on the squad completely. I don't remember Jimmy Tulin referencing that at all as to why he wasn't part of the squad, if it's an injury or not. But we saw Gav Malloy coming in there, Jack Mill moving into the centre of defence as well. And I think for as maybe much as we have struggled this season, to get back-to-back clean sheets, especially again at a venue we've struggled in the league, it has a lot to be admired for, especially now with one eye on Thursday night and that trip to Athens.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think this formation definitely does give us a little bit more of a solid shape. I think so far the three centre backs that have been getting picked have done well. Slight confusion pre-match. I would have assumed Jensen would have been left wing back and Devlin on the right hand side, but seeing Gav bombing up and down the left wing maybe took St Mirren by surprise as much as it did probably a lot of the fan base. But again, another solid performance from him, obviously working his way back from injury as well. So and I think I've kind of leveled a lot of criticism at Meatov in terms of his sort of maybe flappy, erratic nature at times. So hopefully another clean sheet and a little bit more consistency in the back three that's in front of him will kind of help iron that out a little bit. And it certainly for majority of the game, like I say, other than those odd balls into the box from St Mirren, we did look pretty comfortable for the most part.
Yeah, and I think you're right to highlight the maybe defensive approach. I'm not meaning in terms of our style of play, but how we lined up the back five, if you want to call it that, because I did have that same wonder. Would Jensen move over to left back, because Gab Malloy could well be suited to left centre back, leaving Mats Knuster as your centre back option. But I actually think Alexander Jensen benefits a lot from having Nicky Devlin inside of him, because Nicky wants to go forward as much as Alexander Jensen does. Well, actually, maybe a little bit more in that sense. But I think over the last couple of games, we're now starting to see an improved Alexander Jensen, having maybe that bit more confidence in that ability to go forward, because he knows he has Nicky Devlin there supporting. Likewise, if Nicky Devlin drives further forward, Alexander Jensen can drop into that right centre back role. So actually, I think on that right-hand side of defence, we're looking a lot stronger. And I do think Gav Malloy deserves credit for being able to slot into that role vacated by Gyamfi at the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jensen has really benefited from that sort of Nicky Devlin safety net, shall we call it. And I think it suits his game a lot more as well. I feel like, going back to that game at Tannadice, where he just looked really isolated, being so touch tight all the time. And obviously during his time in Sweden, he was kind of a utility man, I suppose, where he did play a number of positions in his time there. And I think having that ability to come a bit more narrow as well. I mean, quite often against Dundee and even St Mirren as well, we did see him come in almost into the midfield, doing that very modern sort of inverted fullback role, which I think benefits his game. And like you say, I think it should probably come as no surprise really that Malloy as well falls into that versatile category. I know, again, people early doors maybe did level a little bit of criticism at Malloy, that sort of bomb scare label along with Rubezic. But I mean, his time in Ireland at Bohemians and Shelburne, I mean, he's played left back, he's played holding midfield, he's played centre half. He is, in his time in Aberdeen as well, we've seen he's a very physical guy. He's deceptively quick, and I think quite good with the ball at his feet at times as well. So, having him being able to slot in there, we speak so much about the compact schedule and European games coming up, being able to sort of change the shape, change the personnel to fit the tactics needed on an opponent by opponent basis. Having Gav being able to slot in at left wing back, left centre half, or even hold the midfield if needed, adds to the team. But I don't think Jensen's the only one that sort of looks like he's benefiting from that confidence. I thought Adil, or as Willie Miller kept on calling him, Adil Ashish, a bit like, as someone put on Twitter, a bit like a former concentration camp there. But but I thought him as well looked really confident, picking out great passes, really determined to get on the ball, and potentially should have scored one himself at one point. But again, another good game from him and Carlson as well, just keeping that quality going. You're really seeing, I think, the team kind of grow into itself, which is really, really good to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. And obviously the comment on screen for those watching on YouTube from Mark Robertson as well about the defensive side, that both our fullbacks, are are getting into that position to push high, which stretched St Mirren's formation and caused them problems. Certainly as the game progressed when they went down 10 men. I do agree with that. And I think, this is probably where some Aberdeen fans have questioned why it's taken so long to change that formation that almost suits the style that we maybe believed we would see on a more regular occurrence from Jimmy Tillene in terms of that free-flowing, trying to get that attacking football going, and we are now seeing that. Totally agree. I think you're right to mention Alshish and his performance. Still, for me, holds onto the ball a little too long at times. Could he either get the shot or pass away quicker, maybe wants to do that extra trick or extra touch to get him set. Jesper Karlsson, totally agree as well. Still carrying that quality. Very unlucky to see that shot whisk past the kind of post crossbar as well. And I think, the link up that both him and Adil are now maybe getting will only benefit. I suppose, looking at the way we played, maybe one negative, despite the victory, could be Kevin Nisbet's performance. Another game where it's passed him by without scoring. Marko Lazetic obviously rightly getting all the plaudits for scoring, the quality of the goal as well, his work ethic. He does seem to be going from strength to strength currently. Is there certainly validity in the shouts to see Marko start on Thursday, if not on Sunday when Hibs come to town? Or are you maybe in the camp where it would actually be interesting to see what both of them could do up top together?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the game on Thursday, AEK carry a lot of quality, so we may have to weather the storm a little bit more, which is why I think we're still probably going to stick with that one centre forward as opposed to the two. And I also think having the ability to sort of, I guess, change the game a little bit and change the dynamics sort of on the hour mark and keep AEK guessing is potentially a sort of weapon in our back pocket. I think Nisbet, it's an interesting one because we saw last time around, once he does get that goal, everything seems to click. It's unfortunate it's not quite came yet, but with the way we're playing just now, really looking to get the likes of Adil and Karlsson on the ball and utilise their quality, I think that's where Nisbet's movement means more than anything else. As much as Lazetic takes the headlines and he does have his moments of quality, I think he doesn't offer that same sort of movement that Nisbet does in around the box, just with his experience. But yeah, I mean, since we've touched on it, I mean, like you say, quite rightly taking the headlines, because what a goal and what a moment. I mean, we saw glimpses of that quality in the Dundee game with that Berbatov-esque spin, and what a finish as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him start in Athens and, potentially ride the hand while it's hot.
Yeah, and I think the problem is they're two completely different strikers. I think you're right in highlighting that Nisbet's got that ability to find the pocket of space and be that kind of predator 6-yard box striker. A little bit in the same breath as Adam Rooney, maybe not quite up there in terms of poacher's instincts that Adam had, but similar sort of vibe. Whereas I don't think, had Nisbet been on the pitch, he gets on the end of that ball that Palaversa plays to him, nor do I think he's got the ability to spin and keep it in, let alone finish past Jamal George in the same fashion. And I mean, from going from a team that can't score to having 2 goal the season contenders in back-to-back games just shows the Jekyll and Hyde nature of this squad right now. But I guess, I think Kevin will likely start on Thursday night. He'll go with that kind of maybe more physical presence of Kevin Nisbet. I do think if Lazetic starts, he's a surefire bet to be booked on Thursday night. Him up against the Greeks is certainly going to be lively. My only kind of concern, I suppose, as much as I do like the thought of them playing up top, would be who misses out. And right now, in terms of when you look at that kind of support network behind the lone striker, there's no one for me really screaming that I would want to drop to be able to play 2 up top.
Yeah, no, I think the Shinnie Armstrong pivot seems to be working, quite well defensively. Like you say, I mean, maybe lacking that little bit of support in behind the striker, but I think that's where Jimmy's really trying to utilise his wingers. And like I said, I think that's where Nisbet's movement to sort of drag defenders away is really why he's maybe in the team at present, without being that necessary goal-scoring threat. But like you say, I think sacrificing a midfielder or potentially a defender to go for that 2 up top, I think could be asking for trouble against IEK. I think although they got beat 2-0 by PAOK Thessaloniki, there we go, I'll spit that one out, the other day.
It's not just me struggling.
I know. So yeah, getting beat 2-0 the other day, I think it was at home as well. They're still a team littered with quality. Anthony Martial, Luka Jovic.
Martial's not there anymore. He left in the summer.
Is he away? Oh, thank God. Thank God.
But Jovic is still there. They've got his name's now escaped me. The Croatian defender with a ponytail. Vida, that's it. Yeah, plays at centre back. Obviously James Penrice, who's going to be well known to us as well. But yeah, I did wonder how much that 2-0 defeat at home might influence their mood going into the game on Thursday night. Of course, obviously, we had that benefit of playing 24 hours less. They'll have had 24 hours less to prepare by playing on the Sunday compared to ourselves as well. It's a tough game. Interesting question, actually, since we've mentioned AEK there. Given obviously our result at the weekend and the importance of it, but maybe the surprise result at Dens Park followed up, Graham Gibb asks, which game this week is more important, the AEK game or the Hibs game? He also goes on to say, of course, the Dundee result shows how even our league is this season. I definitely think that was a result that nobody saw coming at Dens Park. Of course, with the way the league is, certainly below the top two so far this season, a victory over Hibs on Sunday could see us just go a point behind them. It's great to see Pittodrie heading towards a sellout for the Sunday game. I don't know. I don't want to say Europe still feels like a free hit, because I do think there's a possibility of getting a result and it can set us up this week. But domestically, if we could beat Hibs, that really puts the cat amongst the pigeons, given how awful our league start's been.
Yeah, and I think, you've kind of hit the nail on the head there a bit. To be able to get back within 1 point of Hibs, I think for me, totally eclipses anything to do with the IEK game. We could nick a result, in the same fashion we almost nicked a result against Shakhtar. I think the fact we didn't get anything out of that Shakhtar game, you would have been probably looking at not getting anything from Shakhtar, not getting anything from Athens, probably not getting anything from Strasbourg, and picking up your points and wins in the remaining games, really. So I think potentially you're still kind of looking at this as a low expectation. If you get something, great. If not, I don't think anyone's nose is going to be too out of joint. And I think just for the grand scheme of things, I think Hibs is, for me, the more important fixture to make sure we get a win in. Because, to be able to get within 1 point there and, potentially level on points with fourth is massive. Yeah,
and to be honest, it's also, I think Graham said, this week, you could argue as well that, come Wednesday, we've actually got the 3 games within a week, because we've got Kilmarnock. I think it's the Wednesday after Hibs. So the games are coming thick and fast. And Rugby Park, of course, a venue that can be tricky to go to, and they have been playing well up until that 3-0 defeat against Hearts as well. So I think, when we the three of us spoke about this kind of fixtures after the October break, we knew we had a tough set of fixtures, and I think we've done extremely well to go and get that victory on the board at St Mirren. So again, we've given ourselves a platform to build. As Andy Wright highlights, the fact that a win in Europe's around $750,000. I'm not sure what it is for a draw, but there is that financial bonus of grabbing a result in Europe, as well as obviously the prospect of allowing us to qualify. But I do agree that I think that league encounter, given how tight it is, and maybe the fact that people are writing us off a little bit as well, does carry that extra importance.
Yeah, like I say, I think the Edinburgh 2 have been rather noisy at our expense this season. So to sort of narrow the gap on at least one of them for the time being, I think for me would be all the sweeter as well. And then, like you say, it does put the cat amongst the pigeons a little bit, and really makes that fight for the potential European spots really, really competitive, which for the league as a whole is great. For us, we're obviously wanting to be involved in that fight sooner rather than later. So if we can get involved now, I would be, I'd be really hoping we can pick a win up against Hibs.
Yeah, and that's kind of a similar point that the musical box makes there as well, in terms of, unless obviously we win silverware, our best hope of European qualification is going to come domestically. So again, highlighting the importance of that game on Sunday as well. Follow-up question from Ross Anderson is, if we play a lone striker, who plays v Hibs? If Lazetic was to start in Athens, does that potentially indicate Kevin Nisbet starts on Sunday against Hibs, or would you look it up?
Well, it would be a good time for him to get his first goal this season, because that would be a rather seething away end, much as the seething home end that we saw in St Mirren. So yeah, no, I mean, I think if we're going one up front, you're probably going to see them alternate. Most likely, if Lazetic does get the nod, I would say Nisbet starts against Hibs, and again, it gives us the option of Lazetic potentially off the bench, Yengi as well. The kind of forgotten man. The name probably strikes fear into a lot of people, but again, with the run we're on just now and the increased confidence in players, if he can get a goal and get a little bit of the wind in his sails, you never know. You might have a renewed player, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, again, could he be that physical outball in terms of that hold-up play? Could he be the European specialist this season? Remains to be seen, of course. Andy Wright's actually come back. He's actually looked up the information for the win and a draw. It's 400,000 for a victory and 133,000 for a draw. So, still good money if we can grab a result over in Athens as well. And certainly kind of looking at some of the results from the weekend in European context, that Strasbourg result against PSG probably stands out a little bit. Phil, I suppose we could speak about that briefly. They went to Paris Saint-Germain, found themselves 3-1 up, albeit did concede a couple of late goals to draw 3-3. So, that game kind of really stands out as one that will catch the eye, and our friends at Lifestars have got a raffle competition going on to win 2 tickets in the main stand for that. If you're interested in or don't have your tickets for that game, if you email info@lifestars.net with your contact details, they'll get in touch with how to enter. It's £5, there's 20 spaces. So excellent opportunity to not only get to a European game and save yourselves a great discount on the match ticket, but also support a fantastic local charity that me and Phil are always very happy to help as well.
Yeah, it's a high-flying Strasbourg team, much like our high-flying Fives team, the Lifestars charity game. So, life will emulate art. But yeah, no, I think it'll be a really interesting game. Like you say, I think looking at how Strasbourg are doing in Ligue 1 and, really pushing PSG, again, it'll be another Shakhtar situation where, we're maybe going into it with low expectations and just looking forward to seeing some good players coming to Pataudry, but you can. Well, exactly. Marko Lazetic will have them all on notice, I think. But yeah, no, definitely something I think that every game in Europe is winnable. It's any game of football is winnable. It's a game of 90 minutes. You never know what's going to happen. So no, I think it'll be really interesting. Like you say, I think we've got the statistically hardest draw out of everybody, but if the Shakhtar game's anything to go by, then we'll give anybody a game on our day. So it'll be really interesting. Yeah, like I say, if you can get involved and support Lifestars as well, it's a great charity to get behind and hopefully get a nice cheap match ticket for a 1-0 Dons win.
Yeah, well, exactly. Grab yourself a pair of main stand tickets for a fiver when it would normally cost you £6 to £8 for 2 adults to go. So you're supporting not only the Dons, but as we said, a great local charity. And yeah, I think you're right. Kind of highlighting the draw that we've got. Larnacar are continuing their fine form. I know a lot of people are reading into that AZ result. Strasbourg are going from strength to strength in Europe as well. Noah obviously went to Rijeka and won, and then most of that squad playing the Armenian national team, and they had quite a good international break as well. So, maybe that Noah game might not be as easy as many of us foresaw as well. But I think Thursday is going to be that kind of acid test for the European hopes, but definitely for me, Sunday remains more important. Continuing that Thursday-Sunday debate, Mark Robertson saying, I think it depends on the result on Thursday. We don't want to go and get absolutely humped by AK and demoralise the team prior to Sunday. So Thursday could really be a great catalyst, I think, for players and fans alike, if we continue that feel-good factor that Saturday brought and get a result. It doesn't have to be 3 points. I do think a point over in Greece would be seen as a brilliant result.
Yeah, and like you say, I mean, I think if we get a result out of that AEK game, fans coming back to Aberdeen on Friday or Saturday and straight into the game on Sunday, probably still tanked up on gyros and Greek beer, will be giving it large, hopefully, in a nice noisy crowd to kickstart us on again. But yeah, it's an interesting one because like Mark says, you don't want to get played off the park and have the confidence that we're slowly trying to build up just smashed to smithereens. But at the same time, you could be looking at leaving a lot on the pitch in Athens, a lot of weary bodies and tired legs. Probably on the back of that game, so it'll be interesting to see how we come out at Sunday, whether it is sort of all guns blazing, running purely on adrenaline and confidence. But yeah, no, I think I'm looking forward to the game on Thursday. It's always good to see the Dons in Europe, and like I say, if we can keep going strength to strength and really building that sort of nucleus of the squad to really propel us up the league a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure as well a positive result on Thursday night would also lift your spirits, not just for Sunday, but of course you and the boys heading over to Larnaca in a few weeks as well will give that trip a little bit of added impetus and excitement as well, even more so than I'm sure it's already carrying.
We're doing a countdown by sleeps in the group chat. That's how excited we're all getting. A different squad numbers going in each day to count it down. So maybe an RTG live from the balcony if I can remain sober enough and unsunburned enough for it.
Well, that'll definitely be something. You've heard it here first. There was a comment from Paul Donaldson, I think it was, earlier in the show, again going back to Saturday, about how great it was for us to get a late winner, given how much late heartbreak we've seemed to be on the receiving end down in Paisley. Again, I spoke about the North Bank being one of the angriest stands in football. Stephen Robinson, I don't know why, felt the need to bring up the financial gulf between Aberdeen and St Mirren and reflecting in the defeat, because I think that's kind of just shows how much of a head loss he and the St Mirren team had, because I think they actually competed very well. It's got nothing to do with the financial gulf between the two clubs, but it does add that little bit to that victory when you get a last-minute winner, especially against a fan base that seems so entitled whenever they play us, given their recent results.
Yeah, no, like you say, it does make it all the better. I regularly call them the angriest stand in football. Their away supporters usually the angriest away support in football. There's usually somebody screeching near the fence. Everything that goes on, so it does make all the better to kind of get up them and see the better reaction, like you say, from Stephen Robinson and various St Mirren fan accounts on Twitter. It's added to the enjoyment of that last gasp winner.
It has, and I think important in the sense that being able to carry on that momentum from the Dundee victory, and as we've said, it's a venue that's tough to go to. There was players potentially with points to prove against us. Killian Phillips, who for me, as I highlighted, has been one of St Mirren's better players. Jaden Richardson potentially as well. Turns out that was probably Jaden's best Aberdeen performance at the weekend. I think probably the biggest surprise was the referee only saw fit to book him in that confrontation.
Yeah, I mean, Agent Richardson really came to our aid there, so thank you for that, Jaden. Much appreciated. In real time, maybe looked a tiny bit bit harsh, but I mean, when you see it slowed down, it's a kick out. You can't do it in modern era with VAR. I don't know what he was thinking, and I don't know why there's the shock over the decision. You know, in this day and age, that's going to be given as a red card every day of the week, as long as you're, you know, not playing in a green and white or blue jersey. So you know, I really don't get the backlash over that. It was rightly given, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't know what the yellow card was for. I'm assuming retaliation, but you know, given it happened right in front of the linesman, and the referee should have had a pretty good view of it as well. A little bit baffling that it needed re-refereed to upgrade to a red card. But I suppose in games when you do play for a period of time against 10 men, it can often, you know, prove to be a bit harder than people expect, especially against stuffy teams like St Mirren, when they like to sit in and frustrate as well. So I think, you know, also credit needs to go to the Aberdeen team for how they reacted to playing against 10 men, and also Jimmy Talleen, because once again, I think the substitutes influenced the game in a positive manner. Topi Keskinen had an impact off the game, off the bench, sorry. When you look back at the winning goal, how quickly Dante's looking for the ball. You know, there's that urgency there from those players coming on, looking to make that impact. So good use of the bench, as Jimmy once again offloaded it in numbers, but you know, things coming right. And I think, you know, on a whole, this weekend really felt like the game that was the rub of the green that we'd long been missing. You could argue about the controversial disallowed goal. For me, I think it's fairly straightforward when you see it back. Yes, you'd be a little bit annoyed if it was against us, but he's clearly offside. He clearly interferes with Mitov. There's no issue with the red card again. Thank God for VAR. And we get the last minute winner. It's about damn time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had that written down here, about the subs having an impact, and it, you know, it does take me back to the early days of Jimmy's tenure. You know, where it seemed like everything he touched turned to gold. Every sub seemed to be the right one at the right time and seemed to have an impact on the game. So it does feel good to, I suppose, have the luck falling back into our balance in one way or another. Like you say, whether it is the subs having an impact, VAR actually benefiting us, or the fact we've actually managed to go to St Mirren and get 3 points out the game with a worldie of a last minute winner. So hopefully, you know, this maybe is our tide turning. You know, law of averages would dictate we're probably due a good run at some point or another in terms of our fortunes. So yeah, hopefully this is not going to be me giving it, I suppose, the commentator's curse and we're away to go and have everything go against us on Thursday night in Athens. But we'll wait and see. European refs can always be a bit of a potluck, I suppose.
Yeah, they can be. I've not actually seen what country we've been blessed with. But you know, David McLennan actually arguing that we should have probably put it to bed before added time. And I think with some of the gilt-edged chances, Stuart Armstrong should probably do better. Yeah, he gets on target, but he needs to lift it. Alexander Jensen, as I mentioned already, should have definitely been hitting the target. We had the chances. Again, the musical boxing, we created a lot of chances. It was disappointing that nobody could get on the end of them. Graham Gibb, you know, countering our point about Jimmy Talleen and, you know, his substitute, saying that, you know, maybe deserves a little bit of criticism for persisting with Dorrington wide right and Jensen wide left, because we needed a little bit better quality from out wide with balls into the box. Again, it's been a season-long problem for me, as some of our balls into the box. But I think it's fair to say that the criticism aimed at our lack of finishing is possibly deserved. But is absolutely overshadowed by the one bit of quality that Marko Lazetic does go on to produce.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like I say, I mean, I'm really pleased for him to get that goal. I mean, it seems like every week since he's came in, we keep speaking about, you know, the confidence. So the confidence will come if he gets that goal. You know, you'll hit the ground running. I think it's a little bit of indication as well for, you know, a lot of people on social media writing him off for a few scaffed shots against Forfar and the like. So I'm really pleased to see him getting in there. You know, maybe, as I think it was Paul Donaldson had maybe mentioned, about not seeing Nick Milanovic. There are a few other of the new signings that I'd maybe like to see a little bit. Oh, it was can't be bothered. Sorry. We'd like to maybe see a few more of the new signings. Blalovic looked good when he came on against Dundee United. Yengi potentially has a part to play in the squad as well.
Kjartansson obviously made the bench as well. He didn't get that involvement. It'll be really interesting to see come Thursday night if Gyamfi has any involvement and what is the issue with him, because as I said, I've not heard anything pre or post match around that. Again, someone had in the comments that Jimmy Tillene referenced some players are carrying knocks, but it must be significant enough for him not to feature. And then whether you throw him into that maybe expected cauldron of Athens and the pressure and the heat of Athens as well, it'll be an interesting one come Thursday. And I do think we'll maybe see a couple of changes, not necessarily with one eye on Sunday's game at Pittodrie, but I do think you need to adapt your game slightly when you're playing a little bit more streetwise teams that we see on the continent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like we've said, there's no second guessing the quality in that Athens team. We are going to spend a lot of time off the ball. We are going to spend a lot of time doing a lot of running. We're probably going to be a little bit more physical and, a little bit more of the dark arts perhaps to, try and get the most out of the game as we possibly can. But I think as well, a lot to be done with managing minutes as well. I've spoken about it before, sort of the sports science department and what they seem to be doing. The musical box has mentioned the Tober's injury, just seemed like a complete mismanagement of minutes. A lot going on there. My good friend James, he is such a vocal critic of this, and that's probably what's rubbed off on me. But yeah, I think there's got to be a little bit more man management put in for the density and the number of games we've got to play, and ensuring that we've got as fit and as a quality squad as possible for as much games as possible.
Yeah, and especially right now when, as I said already, we've got 3 games coming up in the space of 7-8 days this week, and obviously the travel involved in Athens is it's an away trip to Kilmarnock as well. And look, I think it is going to be a tough game physically on Sunday against Hibs, who will look to come here and try and not put us in our place, so to speak, but try and prevent us, getting within touching distance of them. And it's quite fitting almost that we are playing Hibs, because Saturday could well be our sliding doors moment in the league, as much as when we went to Easter Road and they had their sliding doors moment against us at 3-2 down in injury time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hopefully the sliding doors moment for us is going to be in a more positive direction than last time around. And like you say, this is going to be one that catapults us up our league. But, much like St Mirren, again, the Hibs game's a massive test, in terms of the shape of the tactics of, the personnel that have been brought in to the playing squad. So, yeah, hopefully it is, again, and I keep saying it, we're looking to build by build, build and build game by game. Those blocks of confidence to really have a squad that is able to consistently compete and give everybody, a good game and obviously get us into where we should be in the league, which is in that European conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's obviously where we want to be, and it's been a struggle so far this season. And I think that Dundee one was so vital, but I think also going to a tough venue, as we keep referencing Paisley, and picking up 3 points could really be a pivotal point at this early stage as well. In other news relating to the Dons as well, you spoke about Nicholas Milanovic. He won the PFA Harry Kuehl medal over in Australia during the international break. That recognised as the most outstanding under-23 footballer in Australia for the 24-25 season. So congratulations to Nicholas for that. Hopefully we maybe get to see him on the pitch, whether that's Thursday or Sunday as well.
We'll maybe see Cassini Yengi win the Mark Viduka big block striker, ideally as well, before then.
Yeah, at this rate, some people will be saying we would be better with Mark Viduka at this age than Cassini Yengi. Also, on the community trust front, we've already spoken about Lifestars in terms of charities. The community trust today, on Mondays, we're recording this live, appointed their new CEO, Peter Davidson has been appointed as the new chief executive of the community trust. For me, it's a really exciting appointment and a really good appointment as well for the community trust. I actually spent the evening with Peter at the Sport Challenge quiz. Peter's got a great background, formerly, of Montrose, doing the community trust there. Also, director of fundraising at Camp Hill recently as well. Has also been served on the boards of the European Football for Development Network and also the SPFL as well, in terms of shaping community and development strategy. So I do think that's a really excellent appointment in hopefully driving the community trust, who we know fine well do excellent work in the Northeast community, and I'm sure Peter will do a great job in taking the community trust to the next level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like say the work the community trust does, Becky Christie does a lot of work for the community trust that obviously very, very well and see firsthand the sort of impact it has. So and I've no doubts Peter's going to continue that excellent work. And here's hoping it's not the only incoming behind the scenes for the club. Still waiting for that director of football announcement as well. So hopefully that comes in the coming weeks as well to add to that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be certainly to stay across that. And of course, also a couple of episodes ago, we mentioned the competition that we'd be running for the Stealth Football Masters in November. There's 2 competitions run on that. One was going out to the YouTube members. Congratulations to you and Stuart for winning that. Getting 2 tickets to the Masters with VIP bar access. And congratulations also to Adam Richardson, who won the competition over on the Twitter page as well. So congratulations to both of you. We'll be in touch to get the details and how you'll be able to collect your tickets on the day. As I said, we've already promoted that Lifestars raffle. Stay tuned because we will have another raffle through the channel as well. For the hospitality tickets that never sold at the start of the season, and we've still got them kindly donated from a member of the YouTube channel, but also a big Aberdeen fan who stays down in Paisley. So thank you very much to you for that donation. I know you want to remain largely anonymous on that, but we will get that raffled out so it can be used in the second part of the season as well. So lots to come in terms of exciting things on this podcast. Hopefully the excitement continues on the pitch as well, Phil, because it's much nicer speaking about 3 points victories than it is constant defeats and no goals.
Yeah, exactly. And like say, hopefully we're coming on after Thursday with something fun, at least at the bare minimum, to speak about. Ideally positive fun, but positive. Fun nonetheless.
If not, the fun will probably be hearing how much Callum's suffering on the Friday. But yeah, we'll jump back on Friday and kind of have a deeper dive into that game on Thursday and discuss maybe the changes we might expect to see in that really important game that's shaping up. It feels finally the Super Sunday is coming to Scotland this week, not just, of course, for that game at Tynecastle, but I think equally the game at Pittodrie as well, which we'll obviously have more focus on. But yeah, lots to be positive around Scottish football. So let's hope the positivity continues at Pittodrie as well. Until next time, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you then.